The Nintendo Switch. Probably Nintendo's greatest system to have been released since the Wii, and is probably one of their strongest systems since the GameCube in terms of first-party games. Nintendo has come out with something almost every single month when it comes for the Nintendo Switch, and it's truly incredible the amount of first-party games the Switch has had, considering all these next-gen consoles that are out right now that can barely get something come out every 3 months if we're lucky. But Nintendo, they had no problems with that with the Nintendo Switch. But with the Nintendo Switch, while it had a lot of original games, it also had a lot of ports and remasters with its predecessor, the Nintendo Wii U. Now, obviously you guys know the Wii U was supposed to be a system that lasted a lot longer and was a commercial failure. I think the system only sold like 16 million units, which is not a good number at all. And the Wii U had some incredible first-party games from Nintendo. I always say that the Wii U was something very special for Nintendo due to the fact that they had to be the ones to provide games for the system, so they had to bring out some of their best games for the system possible. And we had some really great games. Those games were brought over to the Nintendo Switch, and there are still a lot of Wii U games that was not added to the Nintendo Switch. And in this video, I wanted to cover some of the big Nintendo Wii U games that Nintendo themselves made that has yet to come onto the Nintendo Switch. Because I think it's safe to say now, as we're entering that final year of the Switch, we're probably not going to be getting many of these, if at any of these Wii U games, onto the current Switch, maybe towards the Switch 2. Who knows? Now, you would think that there shouldn't be many Wii U games left to add to the Nintendo Switch, but I pulled out a big stack of Wii U games here that Nintendo themselves have made that has not arrived onto the Nintendo Switch. And some of these ones that are in here feels like they should be some obvious ones to put onto the system. And when we're talking obvious, this one is a pretty obvious one to put onto the Nintendo Switch that still surprises me to this day that has not been added to the system, because this is one that has been requested since it was called Nintendo NX. Because a lot of people felt that this game did not get the proper treatment that it deserved as it arrived towards the very late cycle of the Nintendo Wii U. That game being Xenoblade Chronicles X. Xenoblade Chronicles X has to be probably the most requested game now to come to the Nintendo Switch when it comes to Nintendo doing ports. I would say probably 3D World was the number one. We obviously got 3D World. I would say number 2 after that would be Xenoblade Chronicles X. I remember when the Nintendo NX was around, and then we had just found out it was called Nintendo Switch, people were reaching out to Monolith Soft being like, hey, we need to put Xenoblade Chronicles X on Switch. Come on, Monolith Soft, put Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Switch. And basically the director came out and was like, if we were to put Xenoblade X on the Nintendo Switch, it would cost a lot of money. He basically kind of shot it down, saying that the interest was not there. But still to this day, this is highly requested. And because of it not being on Nintendo Switch, this game continues to go up in value due to that. It's the only Xenoblade game to not be on the Nintendo Switch, and I think this deserves to be on the Switch with the fact that it did not get the proper audience it should have with it being on the Wii U. Not to mention, with all the stuff that you had to download onto this game, we need a new updated version where you don't need to download like the whole 18 gigabytes of stuff to make the game good. Because if you had a Wii U at the time, having that type of storage, that big of a download, would kill your storage immediately. Because storage was not really a good thing for the Wii U. It was very small. If you had the Wii, or the white Wii, if you had the black Wii, you would still have problems with storage. The Nintendo failed for the storage for those systems. If you had this game digital or physical, you were screwed when it came to storage. Now, that obviously might be one of the big problems with putting it on the Switch, since it's a cartridge-based system, but I think Nintendo can figure it out, and hopefully one day we can get this game onto the Switch or Switch 2, whatever is going on with that Switch 2. This next one is one that Nintendo funded and they published. It was one of those games that probably should have never released, and this will definitely never come out on another console, but I still think it would be funny if we got this onto the system somehow, some way. That game being Devil's Third. Now, Devil's Third is one of the most expensive Wii U games. I think, and I might be wrong about this, but it kind of released out of nowhere. Nintendo did not want to promote the game because the game was really bad. The developer, I think, was incredibly rushed with it. I don't know. I think there's an interview talking about why this game was bad, but Nintendo was ashamed of it. And there was actually a rumor going around that Nintendo tried to cancel this game because of how bad the game was. Now, I think it would be cool if they made an updated version where the game was actually good, like a director's cut. And I think the interest of this game is there because a lot of people did not get to play this in America because the physical copies, there was only like 2 produced over here. I don't know. I think this deserves another chance, but at the same time, I know it's never gonna happen because I'm probably the only one being like, hey, Devil's Third on the Switch, can we get it, Nintendo? I heard the online of this game was actually incredible, that this was the only good thing about this game. The bad part is you can't play the online anymore, so maybe they could use that with the Switch version, promote it like, oh, the online is back, ooh. This next one is probably one that's not on the Switch due to the fact that there's already 2 entries of this series onto the Switch, and this was one that was very controversial that they made on the Wii U, but part of me is still kind of surprised within the early days of the Switch they didn't port this over. That game being Paper Mario Color Splash. Now, Paper Mario Color Splash, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't play it. I heard that it was not as annoying as Sticker Star. It was a game that came out very late into the Wii U cycle. I believe this might have been the last first-party Wii U game other than Breath of the Wild coming from Nintendo. And I know a lot of people was shocked to see a game like Paper Mario come out for the Wii U so late when we were getting this next Nintendo console. People were like, oh, wow, I would have thought this came to the Switch. You know, that's kind of a big title to put on Wii U. And we never got this game onto the Nintendo Switch. We got things like the Origami King, which was, what a game. That's what I'll say. That game, I entered the Great Depression because I played Last of Us and then I went straight into Origami King. I was having the most horrible time of my life because we were also in the first year of COVID. Oh my God, that was a terrible timeline for me. I just think it's one of those things that I'm very shocked that Nintendo did not put this on here. This is one that's definitely never going to happen now because we're late into the cycle of the Switch. I mean, unless the new Nintendo console is like very far away into late next year, I don't think they would ever put this on here, but it's still a game that Nintendo themselves have not put out onto the Nintendo Switch. And considering people talk about how there's too many Wii U ports onto the Switch, I don't know if I agree with that since I have so many games right here in front of me that's not on the Switch. I remember when this game was revealed back at E3 2014 at the Nintendo presentation, and it kind of threw people off because it was a sequel to something that no one ever expected to see a sequel for. And that game being Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I am still surprised that this has not dropped onto the Nintendo Switch because I feel like this would be a game that you could make happen. It might be a little bit more difficult to do with the stylus in mind, but they made Super Mario Maker 2 happen, and they did it in a creative way. I feel like this game could be put onto the Nintendo Switch, and I know there is speculation that this game is coming out to the Switch because Nintendo, for whatever reason, updated the trademarks. But Nintendo updates trademarks a lot, so I don't think it means anything. But this is still a Wii U game that has not come out for the Nintendo Switch that, again, is surprising because Kirby has been heavily focused on when it comes to the Switch. We have like 30 Kirby games. So what's one more Kirby game? This is a spin-off, and a lot of people didn't get a chance to play it due to the fact that it was on the infamous Wii U. These next 2 is stupid that they have not come out onto the Switch yet. I have no idea what Nintendo's thinking. There's been so many great opportunities to release these games, and these would be easy Switch ports to develop, but for whatever reason, they are still not out on the Switch. I hope, out of anything that's in this video, I hope this is the thing that gets put onto the Switch on top of Xenoblade Chronicles X. You know, this might actually be requested more than Xenoblade X. It's very close. Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD. Why are these not onto the Nintendo Switch yet? If you're doing Wii U ports and you want something to sell like crazy, wouldn't it make sense to just put Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker HD, $60 combo pack right there? Or you could probably get away with selling these 2 games separately for $60 and it would still sell millions of copies. I don't know why Nintendo has not put these 2 games yet because it would make the most sense to have these games on the Nintendo Switch. I hope within the next year we see these, but I'm feeling like these are probably never going to happen. These should have happened though. And if they were to put these games on, I just want to point out, technically, we would have every 3D Zelda game on the Nintendo Switch if they put these two games on there. But Max, what do you mean? There's no Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask on the Switch. Well, that's why I said technically, if you have the subscription service, you can play that game. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's kind of cheating the system, but either way, those two games should be on the system, as those should be very easy remasters to make happen. This next one is another one that I'm very surprised is not on the Nintendo Switch yet, especially considering how excited people are for the Nintendo World Championships due to this new challenge mode that's coming into that. And that whole thing was created by the NES Remix Pack. These games were extremely popular on the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS, and the fact that these games have not come out to the Switch yet very much surprises me, let alone at least a new version of this. I think people would have easily grabbed onto this game, especially with how popular it seems that the Nintendo World Champions NES edition, is that what it's called? The whole thing that Nintendo's coming out next month with, or by the time this video comes out this month, people are only interested within that game because of challenge mode. That whole thing was created by the NES Remix Pack, and this concept of this game was very unique. Being able to be in different games with different characters, this was a fun game, and I think it's something that Nintendo should have done more with. Good possibility you will see more of this onto that next console, because I think a lot of people are going to be picking up Nintendo World Championship for the Switch. This next one kind of makes sense why it's not out on the Switch yet, but I would have thought Nintendo would make something similar to it, let alone a new entry in the series with this. That being Nintendo Land. Now, if you guys don't know about Nintendo Land, this is probably one of the most talked about games for the Nintendo Wii U when it came out. This came with every Wii U pretty much. Everyone was playing this game and talked about how great the mini games were, the concept of Nintendo Land. Everyone was talking about what made Nintendo Land to be such a special game. And it was a big hit. I mean, it had to have been a big hit since it was on every console. Everyone was talking about it. And the Nintendo Switch did not really get anything like that. I think Nintendo wanted 1-2 Switch to be the Nintendo Land of the Nintendo Switch, but once the game came out, just no one really cared. It didn't have the same love that Nintendo Land had. And I wish Nintendo would have done something with Nintendo Land with the Switch, or at least make something like it. We have not had a game like Nintendo Land before, ever since Nintendo Land released on the Wii U. That's why I feel like the Wii U is such a great console. It has so many hidden gems, so many things on there that is probably never going to be touched again. Which, again, surprising to me. Nintendo Land will probably never get touched again because of how creative this game was that should be touched again. They also had things like Wii Sports Club, which I own, but I didn't really want to show that off because I felt like we kind of have that with Nintendo Switch Sports, but at the same time, I think people would have just preferred Wii Sports Club to be on Nintendo Switch rather than what Nintendo Switch Sports was, because it has missing stuff that a lot of people loved Wii Sports for. Next up on the list is Yoshi's Woolly World. Now, if you guys don't know, I hate Yoshi's Crafted World. I think that is one of the worst Switch games to have come out from Nintendo themselves. I thought Yoshi's Woolly World was a phenomenal game. Now, I guess what Nintendo was thinking is it didn't make sense to have another Yoshi game onto the system that in their eyes is similar to Yoshi's Crafted World. However, I feel like those two games are very different because Yoshi's Crafted World's main gameplay gimmick is playing the same level but backwards. I think that is stupid, but that's just me. Maybe I have the wrong opinion, you know, that's a thing. I sometimes say stupid things. Maybe I'm saying another stupid thing here. But Yoshi's Woolly World has not arrived onto the Nintendo Switch, which in ways I originally was like, okay, that makes sense. But then if you look at some of the titles that's on the Switch, you have Kirby with like multiple entries. Why can't Yoshi get another entry? Yoshi's Woolly World is the perfect game to port over to the system. They ported it over to the 3DS when they really should have ported it over to the Switch. This game was great. It also had amiibo costumes. You could play as like every Smash Bros character of in like Yoshi format. There was a Sonic costume, there was a Mega Man costume, a Shulk costume. This game was great, and it's unfortunate that this game is stuck onto those two consoles. I don't know if the 3DS version was at its peak, but I wish they would have brought that over to the Switch. really wish that came out instead of Yoshi's Crafted World. You know, like, I've never wanted to destroy a Switch game before, but if I had to destroy one Switch game in my collection, like I was forced to do it, Yoshi's Crafted World, you out of here, bro. Oh, actually, you know what? It probably would be this game, because every time I talk... I gotta stop holding that game. It makes me, oh my gosh, everything's falling apart. I gotta stop holding that game. Anytime I talk about that game, think about that game, I fall asleep. That probably would be, well, actually, I'd be asleep. There would be no way I could destroy it because every time I look at it, I fall asleep. So Yoshi's Crafted World is going bye-bye if I have to destroy a Switch game. This next one is a very unfortunate one because this should have been a peak game, but Miyamoto is kind of stupid at times. That game being Star Fox Zero. Now, I still wish the Switch had a Star Fox game. We had Starlink, but that wasn't Star Fox. It was Ubisoft using their IP, and then they used Star Fox to make it hype. But then you have Star Fox Zero that released on the Wii U, and that game was... it was all over the place. It was so many things, and I just... it's disappointing. That's the best thing I can say. And this was supposed to be like a big deal. Like, this was such a big deal that Nintendo at one point had this as their holiday title for 2015. However, it had to get delayed into April because everyone was playing the game at E3 and was just talking about how the controls were not good for this game. So when this was demoed at E3 2015, they had to change everything up. I think Nintendo did not actually have a holiday title that year because they had to delay this due to all the controversy that was talked about E3 2015. And the game released in April 2016 and it was still garbage. Still garbage. Now, I guess it makes sense that they didn't put this on the Switch because the gamepad was used, but again, I think they could have made it where that they would have made it be able to work with the Switch somehow, some way, because we've seen them make features that was only used for the gamepad put onto the Switch. I wouldn't say easily, but they made it happen. I think Star Fox Zero should have came to the Switch only due to the fact that it needed a new platform, and maybe with the Switch they could have made the controls a lot better since you weren't focused on that gamepad. Because this game probably had potential if it wasn't so focused on the Nintendo gamepad. And if they just wouldn't try to be Star Fox 64 again, we could probably go somewhere with the Star Fox series. But for whatever Miyamoto, for some reason, if he touches the Star Fox series and it hasn't been touched for a long time, he's looking at Star Fox 64 and is like, oh, it's time for another version of this game. Guys, those are all the Nintendo games that we have not had from Nintendo themselves put onto the Switch. There's obviously things like Mario Party 10, but they're not going to put Mario Party on the Switch like that. They have new entries in the series. They're not going to port those type of games. And then obviously Wii Sports Club, they're not going to port that because they have Nintendo Switch Sports, and it just doesn't make sense to have both of those onto the system. Now, I want to know what you're thinking. Out of the games that we talked about today, what do you wish would come over to the Nintendo Switch? For me, I would like Xenoblade X or probably Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess, one of those three games. I feel like they would release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess in a combo pack, but if they did it separate, it also wouldn't surprise me because this is Nintendo that we're talking about. They love money. They see a game and they're like, this prints money. Unless it's Star Fox, they really think it's gonna print money, but then it really sells like less than 100,000 copies. Looking at you, Star Fox Zero. Now guys, I have been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button, like the video, check out the Discord server, check out the Twitter, check out the Instagram, become a MONADO Marine for $5 a month. Helps out the channel a lot. You guys have been crushing the channel. At the time of recording this, we're almost at 13,000 subscribers. We probably already hit that. So thank you. We're gonna show where we are at in the subscriber count. If we didn't hit 13,000 yet, then we're gonna look like an idiot. But either way, thank you guys for the support on the channel. Love y'all to death, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.